the ultimate search and rescue hovercraft.
It's a spectacular piece of equipment. Here we go!
Canatine transport this multi-million-pound marine machine.
Full stop. It's all getting a little bit close.
Diver in the water.
More than 9,000 miles from Southampton to Vancouver.
We mustn't fall into the trap of assuming that it's all going to behave as it should.
It is nerve-wracking. There's no doubt about it.
The crew must battle treacherous seas.
If we're in the wrong place, it would be very dangerous.
Stop. You'll damage the cargo.
And creaky cranes.
She's 30 meters up in the air, so I'm pretty nervous.
Stop, stop.
One huge hovercraft. One team with a mission to move it. An epic adventure that will test the nerves of the people who dare to do monster moves. Vancouver, Canada. A beachfront city on Canada's west coast. These warm waters are a magnet for millions of swimmers, surfers and sailors each summer.
Sea Island.
In charge of keeping them safe is Captain Bruce Briggs, who heads up the Coast Guard station in Sea Island.
Okay, broken leg. We'll be there in about 10 minutes. Okay. Coast Guard Base Sea Island is one of the busiest in Canada, if not the busiest. On any day, there's any number of things that can go wrong. Our role is primarily search and rescue, but we are tasked for marine aids to navigation. We service lighthouses. We do emergency response to pollution incidents. We have in excess of 600 square kilometers of mudflat tidal area. At high tide, it appears as though there's lots of water in what is actually a very shallow area. We commonly have small vessels that will go aground.
To cope with troublesome tides, Bruce's team desperately need a new breed of rescue vehicle. The solution is being constructed 5,000 miles away in Southampton. For 40 years, engineers at Griffin Hoverwork have been designing and building a versatile vessel that can speed across any terrain. The hovercraft. The company was built on the legacy of Sir Christopher Cochrell, who invented the hovercraft back in 1959. Project manager John Coke is at the forefront of their evolution.
Hovercraft's is an excellent piece of British engineering. It's up there with some of the greats, Concorde, the Spitfire. It's a spectacular piece of equipment. Over the years, it's been adapted and improved and developed from Sir Christopher's original concept.
Today, hovercrafts are used across the world, from landing troops in hostile zones to ferrying passengers across frozen rivers.
Griffin Hoverwork have been making hovercraft for over 40 years, and the basic principle hasn't changed since the very early days.
This is the hovercraft John's team is building for the Vancouver Coast Guard, the AP18. Measuring 32 meters long, this is the biggest craft they've ever conceived. But its key components have changed little from Sir Christopher Cochrell's original design. Powered fans suck in air and pump it beneath the hull into a large rubber skirt. The skirt traps the air, creating a cushion. Hundreds of flexible fingers seal the bottom of the skirt to the landscape it travels across. Nozzles pump air out to steer and turn the craft, while powerful propellers give it forward thrust. It's the perfect solution to the Coast Guard's problem.
It's not like a mass production. It's a one-off. After a lot of hard work, we've taken it from a bare shell to what you see before you now. We've basically completed all the fitting out. The engines are fitted, propellers, all the pipes, tanks, everything that is needed to make the craft go.
Boasting a top speed of 40 knots and a multi-million-pound price tag, John must make sure it arrives in Canada without a scratch.
This craft isn't designed for long sea journeys like a ship. It's a bit like setting off in your car across the Sahara Desert. You wouldn't do it because you know you won't make it. It's our livelihood. It's precious. God help anybody who damages it.
The hovercraft can't make the 9,000-mile trip to Vancouver under its own steam. So the craft's pilots must drive it 3 miles from their factory on the river to Southampton docks, and then load it onto a cargo ship for a voyage across the Atlantic Ocean, through the Panama Canal, and up the west coast of Canada to Sea Island. John has secured a space on a cargo ship bound for Vancouver that leaves Southampton 22 weeks from now. Before it can sail, the team must finish the build and put the hovercraft through a series of rigorous sea trials.
This, in total, has been a 3-year project from when the contract was first signed. It looks big and imposing, but we know what we need to do.
Task 1, haul it out of the factory.
So here we are, with an almost finished craft, ready to go out the door. All that's left now is to put the skirt on.
Shifting the half-built craft out of the hangar could be a lot of bother without the hover. With no power, towing the machine could wreck it. So John's crew must position giant rollers under each corner. They will then attach a winch truck to the front to pull, and a digger to the rear to help steer. They'll need to be extra careful turning out of the doorway. A dent could set the project back months, and the hovercraft would miss the boat.
When you come to move something as large as this, that is not designed to be moved on wheels, it is nerve-wracking. There's no doubt about it. Just waiting to see the all clear from the chaps around the craft. Right, we got the thumbs up. Finally, we take the train, and here we go. She's moving.
We do want to start making the turn, otherwise we'll be straight out and it'll be a complete spin then.
It's a good feeling. You know, you can't help but be a bit emotional about it. The next thing is when it starts to hover.
Just as they get going, they hit a snag.
These tracks for the main hangar doors, they're quite substantial. Wheels being solid, flat wheels, they need some help to get over here without hanging up. We're going to put steel plates over the rails to allow the wheels to pass over the plates.
That'll do. Do you want to put down the other 2 sheets as well? Okay, let's do that now.
This is it, we're on the move. Don't always get it right first time, but that is the way it goes.
We'll give it a small pull at the back end, and he's going to keep pulling it across now.
Adam, full stop.
It's a tight squeeze past the posts holding up the hangar.
Oh, it's a bit close.
We're going to try and pull it at that angle now to try and keep it away from this beam. Hopefully that'll do the job.
Yeah, we're there now, so happy.
Okay guys, that's it. The next stage of the job, fit the skirt.
Only with the skirt on can John's crew test the hovercraft in open water and get it ready for its epic journey to Vancouver. In Southampton, John Coke's team is putting the finishing touches to the largest hovercraft they have ever built before hauling it to Vancouver for the Canadian Coast Guard.
It's a once-only operation. When I woke up this morning, the first thing I thought of was this move. The craft has to be moved without any damage to it, without any mishap.
It takes around 12 months to build and test every hovercraft. John's booked this one on a cargo ship that leaves Southampton in 20 weeks. And there's an enormous amount to do before it sets sail. Next challenge, fit its skirt. To do this, they must lift the hovercraft off its rollers onto these stands.
Several millions of pounds and many thousands of man-hours have gone into building it, fitting it out, completing it, and it's just something you don't jeopardise by a foolhardy action. Hold it there, Steve. This first move is just something we have to do very carefully and gradually. Getting underway is the difficult bit.
You're off this one.
They must be on guard against strong gusts that could blow the multi-million-pound machine off course as it takes off.
And it's not safe above a certain wind speed because the wind will just get it, and once something this side starts to move, you won't stop it. We're on the borderline of whether it's going to be too windy.
No, the back's still down.
We don't want the back end of the craft touching the ground. It'll damage it. It's coming forward, Keith.
But it's rolling away from you. Take it round now. Just let that go nice and easy. Steve, just lift up a touch.
They must line the base of the craft precisely with the stands. Too much weight in one place could hole its hull.
A bit more, Steve. About 6 inch.
Said last night.
Pull it back. Steve, you're going to just lift it up a touch. Hold it there, Steve. Take it up again. You're going to want that far to go that way. Keep down. Yeah, keep coming down.
Touchdown.
It feels very good to have it back down on the floor. A bit hair-raising with the wind, but yeah, good feeling to have it done and back down. Get up, D-Rig, and let's get out of here.
The next stage of work is to fit the most important part of the hovercraft, which is the skirt, without which it isn't a hovercraft. It's a boat.
The skirt is made from an 80-meter-long strip of synthetic rubber called neoprene. It's flexible but extremely tough, perfect for this all-terrain vehicle.
What we got here is this is known as the outer loop. This effectively, when it inflates fully out, and it captures a large cushion of air inside, which is forever being fed by the lift fans down through here, and that's what the craft rides on.
It takes a team of 4 more than a week to attach the entire skirt. With the rescue craft's electronics, night vision cameras, and crane installed, the hovercraft is finally finished. But before they can ship it to Vancouver, John's team must put it through a series of rigorous sea trials.
This craft being for a search and rescue application, it's imperative that its performance is 100% reliable.
John's called in one of his most experienced pilots, Peter Mulhern, to put the hovercraft through a critical speed test.
The main objective today is to take the craft out to sea for the first time, check the response of the controls, get the craft up to full speed if all goes well, and iron out any technical glitches that we discover along the way. This is a new craft. We mustn't fall into the trap of assuming that it's all going to behave as it should. We always have to be a little bit careful. Getting too close to vessels would be unwise.
No one knows how the hovercraft will handle, so Peter plots a route to a quiet stretch of water.
At the top of the chart here, you've got Southampton. We have to work our way down through a reasonably narrow channel. All our trials will be within this area.
Unfortunately for Peter, the test clashes with Cows Week, the world's largest sailing regatta, happening right on the factory's doorstep.
There are literally thousands of yachts taking part in various races. It can get very chaotic.
John has his own worries about firing up the untested machine in the factory yard.
As you can see, we've got a very busy yard, and there are an awful lot of hazards about. Containers, very expensive equipment, and priceless people. So before we manoeuvre any craft, we have to have a safety briefing.
Right, so craft's going out this afternoon. We've got very tight spaces out there. So we're going to have you three as marshals. Mike, if you can go up on the quay wall. Lewis, if you can go on the other side, please. And Barry, if you can be on this corner, stop anyone walking into the area. If you see anything that's wrong, raise your red flags, yeah, and we'll stop. Okay, let's carry on.
The marshals, they're the eyes and ears for the pilot and the controller of site safety. They use a system of flags, a green flag when it's safe to manoeuvre, a red flag when it isn't. Simple as that.
As the marshals take up their positions, Peter begins pre-flight checks.
This gauge keeps sticking. ETS Hovercraft Motel, we'll be departing Merlin Key in the next few minutes and heading out to the Solent for trial zone.
Just about to start the engines for the first time.
Okay, starting port lift.
The moment of truth.
The engines go to tick over, that's one engine, that's looking very neat indeed. Port prop is started, starboard prop started, everything's looking fine. If we're in the wrong place, it would be very dangerous because that skirt would mow you down. It's a major milestone, this is the anxious bit. It's been a long time coming, this.
Okay, coming out now.
Right, that's it, we're off. Here we go. All right, let's move back. That's it. We did it, Tom. We did it.
Peter keeps the hovercraft steady at 6 knots. In open water, he'll attempt to push it to 40. John keeps a hawk-like eye on the craft's progress from his office.
What I'm looking at the moment is a live map of the Solent. I'm now able to track our craft to see where it's going and what it's doing. As you see, it's Cows Week. A lot of craft out in the Solent today. This is looking difficult.
Regatta traffic is starting to build. Peter needs to muster all his expertise to navigate through the crowd.
A lot of yachts we have to be very much aware of.
One yachtsman sails directly into the hovercraft's wake, ending up washed out. Peter soon reaches the trial zone.
We'll set them at 1500, that should be about right for this one, as long as she's level.
The hovercraft must hit 40 knots to pass this trial and for the move to stay on track.
Right, they've just reached the test area and they're about to set off on the high-speed test.
So that's a good position. Rudder straight, aft pitch, rib out the way. Okay, go.
She's fast off the mark.
20 knots.
Accelerating like a dream.
30 knots.
It's not long before she clocks her target speed.
40 knots.
It's a job well done. Peter turns her around and heads home.
Back from the trials, first day out. Everything's looking good. By God, it's impressive. Makes it worthwhile, all the effort. All looking bloody good. How'd it go?
Good. Yeah, we got through up to full speed, and considering the weight, it went very well.
So how's the skirt?
There was some bumping around. I think it maybe a good idea is just to check it over because there was something flapping around under there.
Okay, we'll take a look at that.
John uses the hovercraft's onboard cameras to locate the problem.
There is some damage, and now we're just going to go and take a look and see what the damage is and what we need to do next.
The secret to successful hover travel lies in the inflated skirt that wraps around the craft. Underneath this machine, a keel bag runs down the middle, and a stability bag stretches from side to side. Both bags provide strength and balance for the hovercraft whilst in motion. During the trials, a piece of floating debris ripped a hole in the stability bag, causing its controls to be sluggish. To fix the bags, the team must now lift up the heavy skirt and replace it. Working underneath this 75-ton beast is not for the faint-hearted.
There's not a lot of room. We're the A team, aren't we? Oh my God. And it's gone, look at it, it's right back there.
It shouldn't really have this sort of damage. I've never seen any damage like this done before. It's hit something hard for it to rip like this.
Yeah, we'll get it. Bloody hell. Whoa! It's, by the looks of it, it's been caught on this front edge, which has ripped it away. It's ripped this corner off, and then it's basically torn it away like tearing the edge off a plastic bag, really. Looks like it was some tree trunks and what have you. You'd be surprised what we find in the Solent. Don't think we'll be able to repair it, and so we're going to put a new one in.
John's team work fast to install the new skirt. This is no ordinary flat. The fix sets the company back a pricey 5-figure sum.
How you doing, you know?
The ship bound for Vancouver departs soon. They cannot afford any further setbacks with the Coast Guard's hovercraft. Lives are at stake.
Symptom done.
In Southampton, John's team is wrapping and packing the Canadian Coast Guard's brand new search and rescue hovercraft for its 9,000-mile journey to Sea Island, Vancouver.
Are there any more of these lights? It's important that the spares go with the craft, because often these craft operate in remote areas. They are not generic parts, they are very specific. You couldn't just nip down to the local engineering shop and buy another one. When the guys pack the spares, they have a manifest. So that way, every item, they know which box it's in, there's no doubt about it whatsoever.
Over the last few months, John's crew has put the craft through a series of rigorous trials, testing speed, maneuverability, and how its unique heavy lift crane handles out in open water.
We're building a machine that has to do a multitude of tasks, and we have to make sure it will do that for years to come. This craft being a search and rescue craft, it's even more important than usual.
The hovercraft is ready to leave on time.
Now we have finished building our largest hovercraft, we need to ship it halfway across the world to Vancouver. And to do that, we're calling in our chief pilot, Rob Trussler.
I've worked for the company for 18, nearly 19 years now. I've done a bit of film work with James Bond, teaching Pierce Brosnan how to drive a hovercraft.
Rob is going to need all of his 007 credentials to deliver this machine without a scratch.
Southampton VTS, Hovercraft Moitel. Good morning to you, sir. Departing Merlin Quay for 102 berth for loading, over.
Overseas, thanks, sir. Talk to us.
Yeah, that's copied and understood, sir. Thank you very much. Standing by on the 12. And off we go.
Ahead lies a 3-mile run to Southampton docks, where the cargo supership that will transport it across the Atlantic is pulling in. Waiting for Rob is Loadmaster Gavin Boyle, who's in charge of craning the hovercraft into the hold.
As soon as you've got your cargo on that hook and you're about to lift, there is no time off, there is no time out.
Gavin worries whether the huge machine will actually fit.
And I'm physically going to measure from bulkhead to bulkhead, i.e. the side of the ship to the side of the ship.
2, 3.
What we've got, relay that to head office, and then make sure they're happy. 7, 8. Woo! That's tight. That's 12 metres. It's just maybe not even an option.
The hovercraft is 11.5 meters wide. There's no room for error. He needs approval to go ahead with this tight squeeze.
From bulkhead to bulkhead is 12 metres exactly. When you put a hovercraft to any sort of flat surface, you have approximately a metre each side of soft rubber wanting to expand out, and potentially there isn't that room, so I'm just getting them to check with Griffin, make sure they're happy for it to be stowed in such a tight space. Thanks, Simon. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Gavin gets the green light. The move is on. Meanwhile, at its destination in Vancouver, Canada, Captain Bruce Briggs and the Sea Island Coast Guard are preparing for the hovercraft's arrival.
Hat the diver. Sims check. Diver in the water.
Craft's primary role is going to be search and rescue, so we'll be training over the next several months.
The hovercraft comes equipped with a dive platform to help the crew carry out underwater operations.
So the arrival of the new hovercraft is going to benefit us, so we put this thing in service hopefully early in the new year. Very exciting.
In Southampton, the hovercraft is on the approach to the docks.
Coming over there?
That's her there, yes. They are quite impressive, the hovercraft. They can manoeuvre like nothing else. Pretty awesome.
Some of the largest vessels in the world moor here. This container ship heading for the loading area could stir up powerful swells. Rob must get the hovercraft to its ship and secure it fast, or the wake could batter it against the hull.
Not too tight, not too tight. Yeah, just hold them there. I need to check them shackles. Why has that gone slack? That should be tight.
That is tight.
No, this one. Obviously with the ship coming in, the wash of the ship, it's having an effect. And that's pretty much the biggest vessel you'll see, and it's just come past us now. The hovercraft reacted quite well. Okay, Chief.
To load the hovercraft, Gavin plans to use the cargo ship's crane to hoist it aboard. As they lift it up, there's a real risk that its skirt will act like a giant sink plunger, creating a vacuum, sucking up water. This will increase the hovercraft's weight by a further 10 tons, putting too much strain on the crane. To avoid this, Rob must fire the vessel up into hover mode just as the crane slings pull tight. This will fill the skirt with air and stop it taking on water. As long as the wind doesn't pick up, this should give them a good chance for a successful loading.
This is the most dangerous part of the operation. We're now going to board the hovercraft, which requires a 30-foot down a very steep ladder.
They're using 4 heavy-duty lifting straps made from reinforced carbon fiber to lift the machine out of the water. The weight of the hovercraft is unevenly spread, so they're threading the 2 rear straps directly through the cabin to balance the load for a level lift.
Any angulation will just rip apart the cab and it'll damage the lifting gear. So vitally important to make sure that there's no infringement here. If it's not done correctly and not thought through, then you have a bad lift and you have damage. Neither is what we want. Because there's still a bit of slack there, I'm going to have to take up a bit more. Okay.
With the straps secure, the crane takes the 75-ton strain.
They're nice and tight and upright.
Rob must now put the machine into hover mode to stop it sucking up water.
Let the craft do the lifting first and let it lift itself out the water, and then let the crane, when you see these go slack, just let him take it up a little bit. We're in the realms of the unknown, and if we haven't drained the skirt sufficiently, the craft could start porpoising.
So you're at the right height, in effect?
No, not yet. This is the underside of the craft. So, and I'm just checking that the keel and the stability bags are clearing of the water. The keel's looking quite clear now, which is this one here, and these are the stability bags. So there's a little bit of water just left in those.
Chief, can you slew this way? With the lifting itself, the chief officer is wanting a more hands-on approach, so I will liaise all the crane operations through the chief officer by radio. I'm not in favour of that because there's delay. When you're lifting in a confined space, I prefer a visual, just slowly. I'm a little bit uneasy. I prefer to have full control of the crane operator. That way there's no misunderstanding. This has to come up naturally, and this is just a little bit tight. It's a balance.
You could just see the top of the hull, and slowly as we lifted, this became clear. So you know she's completely clear of the water now.
With the skirt empty, they go for the lift.
Okay, Chief, can you take up slack, please?
Just as they get going, they hit a glitch.
Hey! Whoa! Stop! You'll damage the cargo!
The front straps are not long enough to keep the hovercraft level. There's a risk the machine could bend or snap in half.
Let's get it down quickly.
Chief, get him down, please.
Can we get it down? Let's get it down.
We need to add extra length to that front lifting gear. Can we get another line down? We need a meter.
Whoa, 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 whoa!
They lengthen the straps.
Okay, Chief.
And try again.
Come up, come up.
This time they have liftoff.
Just keep tight now.
I've just got to sit down and relax now a bit, but she's 30 metres up in the air, dangling over the side of a ship at the moment, so I'm still pretty nervous about it all.
You pull, nice and slowly.
Gavin's got his eye on the weather. A gust could bash the hovercraft into the ship's hull as it descends.
The wind is picking up a good 20 metres to a solid steel deck. That's not going to be pretty. We're at a position now where we're dropping to the ground level, as it were, in the hold, and then we have a different perspective. And we're concentrating now on the final stowage position. All the front ends. Bit more, bit more. Hold it in that position. Okay, Chief, you can lower down. Stop, stop.
And that's it.
We've just grounded her, nice and easy. All the measurements and calculations were kind of spot on.
No, that's what you call precise.
That's precision, that, isn't it?
The hovercraft will now spend more than 6 weeks inside the cargo hold as the ship makes its 9,000-mile voyage to Vancouver. The crew expects to run into choppy weather along the way, which would toss the hovercraft around. So they must tie the craft to the walls of the hold. For extra security, they will also weld lashing rings to the floor. It will now take the perfect storm to budge this precious load.
We always lash as if the ship is going to go through the worst storm. And that's vital to secure the cargo for the safety of the cargo, also the ship. We're putting 42.5-ton lashings on, we're putting 8 5-ton lashings on. So it's just a question of getting the right angles and making sure they're doing the right thing.
The last thing the ship's captain wants is something that's weighing 60-odd tons moving around in his hold.
Whilst the crew continue with the lashing, Rob's protecting the windscreens with custom-cut shields.
The glass is specially made for this application, and it is actually heated for winterized operations in Canada, so they are quite costly. The last thing we need is something to break it during transit, and we have to try and replace it.
With the hovercraft secure, they can seal the hold.
Overall, everything considered, it was a good operation. The cargo's in there safely, no damage, nicely controlled. Job done.
Highlight of the day, seeing the hovercraft down in the hold, have to be said.
Pilot Rob and Loadmaster Gavin plan to meet the ship in Vancouver to unload it. All they can do now is keep their fingers crossed it doesn't sail into any fierce storms. The port of Vancouver. After a 9,000-mile, 7-week voyage, the cargo ship carrying the Canadian Coast Guard's brand new search and rescue hovercraft has finally arrived in dock.
This is rubbish.
It's an anxious moment for pilot Rob Trussler, who has flown in from Southampton to check that the machine survived its Atlantic crossing.
Because it's been obviously in the hold for 6 weeks, 7 weeks. We'll obviously go around and just check all the bays that nothing's been accidentally knocked into it. We're ready.
The hovercraft looks good, but Rob won't know for sure until he fires her up.
Excellent.
Above deck, Loadmaster Gavin Boyle briefs his team to make sure that the unloading goes smoothly.
We can rig this before it gets in the ship, and then all we have to do is just attach this to here and attach the little one there, so that's probably best. The plan is slightly different to the loading, because it's going to be turned on deck, slewed out to sea, and then we'll have to then control her and bring her towards the ship, so it just requires more control.
Gavin's plan is to crane the hovercraft off the ship directly onto the water.
Swing it out this way and turn around and do all sorts.
Rob's keen to check that the hovercraft's engines work before it touches down.
Gavin, have we got permission to start? Are we allowed to start?
One engine at a time, just to make sure that everything's functioning correctly.
Yeah, do it.
Firing up the engines inside the ship is dangerous, so the team must leave the hold.
We're going to start the propellers up first, and then we're going to start the lift engines up afterwards, but don't walk down the side when we start because you'll get pinned against the side of the ship. Just grab down for a second, I'm just going to check the pitch. Yeah? We all clear down the port side? All systems good.
After a successful engine test, they can start the lift.
It's one of those jobs, you know, you can't rush it. It's all the preparation work. If you haven't done it correctly, then you're going to end up creating problems. Chief, stop. Straight onto this, yeah?
With cargo boxing in the front of the hovercraft, it will be a tight squeeze out of the hold.
The most important part of lifting in such a confined space is having the hook in the right place. Because if you pick it up and it's wrong, the cargo, the hovercraft is going to swing in that position to compensate. So it's a very critical point of the whole operation.
11 tons.
He's got 11, has he?
Yeah.
Right, we can all get off now. Everyone off.
Okay. Add more.
Guys, go tight. You hold that one in.
Here she goes.
What I want you to do, Chief, I want you to bring it this way by 1 metre, this way.
There's always potential for something to go wrong, and this is the most critical point. It's pretty tight down there, isn't it?
Hold it. Slowly.
If we get 2 guys on each of these ropes now when it comes up. You can see it's getting close, all right? Keep it tight, keep it tight. So what you want to do is just level it up.
With the craft out of the hold, they must swing it clear of the deck and lower it onto the water.
Get momentum now. Keep rotating. Keep rotating.
Really good. Really good.
Let's keep it level.
As the craft draws level with the ship's deck, the crew jump aboard to fire her up when she hits the water.
Is everyone on board? They come on board now.
Brilliant, fantastic. She's actually sat in the Canadian waters. It's great. So we've just got to de-rig her, get the kid off and get the engine started, and we'll be off.
For Loadmaster Gavin, this is where the adventure ends.
Yeah, it's the ultimate job done, isn't it? You know, the end result is there, no damage and happy days.
It's just a short hop to the Coast Guard station on Sea Island. This will be the hovercraft's launching point, where Officer Bruce Briggs and his team expect to deploy the machine for more than 300 rescues a year.
Okay, there it goes. It's been a great pleasure working with you guys, and I'm really, really glad that Moytail's arrived, and I hope that she's going to serve you well for many years to come. So, I'm going to shake on it.
Well, thank you very much. We're very pleased to have it, and it's been, again, a pleasure working with you guys. Oh, we're thrilled to get the craft here finally. It's been a long process, and everyone's very excited to finally get it here, and we can start working to put it in service.
You can't put a price on it. You know, you've only got to save one life, and it's paid for itself.